Then so that people have they've got plenty of time between now and then to think about what they want to say. They can even do something in one of the other months, as far as that goes, in the other weeks. And that gives us plenty of time to review everything that we decide then and to do it again.
You want to block out 3 consecutive weeks on that?
I'm not sure if we should do it consecutive, or should we?
No, because people need time to think about it, and I don't want people to do things hastily, and I want them to relax and think through and bring solid information that they had time to research, and not stuff that they scrambled together to meet the Friday deadline
So I
after the
think we
Wednesday
should
meeting.
make that whole one for Article 14, because we know that's going to be most of the controversy.
So the 20th, we're going to do Article 14.
Just
Detail.
industrial wind facility or the whole?
Well, the whole thing, but we'll probably, there's going to be...
Well, no, let's just do the industrial wind facility on Article 14 and just only do
Okay.
that. And then, you know what, then the 26th, we can jump ahead and do Article 14 and the other stuff.
Yeah, but we could probably
I don't-
do more than that. And
Yeah, because there isn't going to be that much...
Well, I know we can do other stuff besides that, but don't do, my point is give everybody, because I know there'll be people who want to do presentations on the 20th, okay? So we're only going to have really like 90 minutes or so to work. I mean, if we work for, I mean, I'm not saying we can't work for more than 2 hours, but you know, after 2 hours of doing this, after going through a whole day of work, I mean, I don't think we're as productive as we would if we were starting on this as regular jobs at 8 o'clock in the morning.
See, that's one problem that we ran into last time was 11 o'clock at night, we're still working on it.
Right, so anyway, that's why I'm trying to be a little bit more focused on this, because it was all of our fault that happened before. So anyway, let's just do just the industrial wind thing on the 20th. That gives people lots of opportunity, and then if there's things that didn't get covered or the way people wanted them covered or felt they had additional things to offer, they wouldn't have to scurry around between Wednesday night and Friday afternoon to get things turned around. So then we worked on everything else in Article 14 on the 26th. And then the following week, we could go back to pick up anything leftovers on industrial wind and other stuff.
Were you leaving for 26, just presentations?
No, the 26th will be
Finish Article 14.
finish Article 14.
Non-wind, okay.
Non-wind Article 14 or non-industrial
Non-wind,
wind.
yeah.
So in other words, the residential wind,
Wind, yeah.
adult
entertainment,
entertainment,
yeah.
campgrounds, etc.
All right.
Even though we're probably gonna wind up with some talk about the wind that night by other people.
Well, if they make a presentation, we'll just bend the presentation until the next week after that,
Okay.
and then deal with it, because we're not going to actually go through it. But they're welcome to make a presentation. But on the 20th, you know, there'll be, I guarantee, there will definitely be 2 presentations about something
Yep.
having to do with industrial wind on the 20th.
Yep.
You know, but there's probably going to be more than 2 industrial wind presentations throughout this process.
No.
So,
That's good.
Now we're up to, 5 March?
Yep.
So, just, Bill, you seem to want to chew on a lot. I just want to make sure you're on the 26th. Do you think that we should be tackling anything more than everything else in Article 14 on the 26th?
You know, we could take one of these obscure middle articles and we could decide that night. Okay?
Okay.
That's why I would leave it.
So which one do you think
Well,
is obscure?
we left off at 8. What is 8?
That's the dimensional standards.
And
We made a lot of changes in that. We did? I mean, I wrote a lot in the margin. Maybe that was just, maybe not, maybe it's not as much as I thought.
It wasn't
Need to
no, you're
define,
right.
need
I
to
didn't
define
really
a bed and
write
breakfast,
You're right.
motel.
I didn't write as much as I
I
thought.
think we discussed it.
So possibly start on Article 8.
On the 26th.
And we can mention then or at any time actually that we made, I don't believe, any changes to 9 and 10 because most of it is state mandated.
Right, no, I know, we'll get there in a minute. then the next meeting after that is on March the 5th. That's a regular planning board meeting. So, like before, I would recommend 30 minutes allocated, right now to regular business. And then probably the workshop. And then that would mean at least probably 2 presentations. So that's 1 hour of ordinance review.
We could start it on,
Excuse me?
we could start on Article 9 that night.
We can finish, well, when do you want to go back and talk about industrial wind again?
March 12th,
Okay,
because that will give us a whole full night that night.
okay, so we're gonna finish Article 8. Finish 8
On the 5th.
on the 5th, and then start on Article 9, and maybe we can finish Article 9.
Finish, why don't we start?
9 and 10, we basically did nothing.
Right, because, our 9 and 10 are all
Start
mandated
Article 8 on
externally.
February 26th, and then we'll finish on the 5th.
I don't think we made a single change in 9 and 10 simply because of so much of it is strictly mandated.
And plus 9 and 10, over the time that we started using this, it's been flowing real good. We've had a lot of good, shoreline zone, we've had a lot of good.
Yeah, I mean, people come in, they've been compliant with stuff.
So let's
Rick
throw
has
that
a
in,
complaint.
let's throw that in the end of the, March 5th.
Right,
9 and 10.
9 and 10.
okay, so now on the 12th, you wanna go back to Article 18, industrial wind?
Yep.
Article 14, I'm sorry.
So we're up to March what, 12th?
Well, we'll spend the whole evening on industrial wind.
Because we're probably gonna be, there are presentations that night.
What if there's no interest that night?
Article 14, industrial.
Hang on a second, I have to think for a second. I need to bring my other calendar with me. Next week, we might make a change in that there's 1 week in March when I'm definitely not gonna be here on a pseudo-secret work mission, so.
You're not going to Afghanistan, I hope.
No, I'm not going that far, but,
Oh, why don't you just find out for sure? and we'll talk
yeah,
about it.
I, off the top of my head, I know that there were 2-week dates in there, and it was either the 16th or the 9th, and I just gotta get it straight.
Well, the schedule is somewhat tentative. We may have to either add even day somewhere, or we
We
should.
should
You can always add a second meeting, Beverly.
Irritated
Yeah, as
myself
much as
now.
it hurts.
Yeah, you know what?
Okay, well, let's tentatively put it in there for now, and I'll definitely have that firmed up.
March
Um,
12th, Article 14,
yeah.
industrial wind, all right. So now we're up to,
Or I could just let you
we'll
guys
throw
do
in their presentations again.
Yeah, 2 presentations, so that'll be 90 minutes of work. I'm gonna just go ahead and schedule that. I mean, I know that we'll have presentations by people.
That was on March 12th, so now we're up to March
20. Is the 22nd the annual meeting?
15th,
Oh, 15th?
yeah, 15th is the annual meeting.
Yeah, it's not meeting. I'll get that on our calendar too. All right, so now we're down to the 20th.
Now,
Well, it doesn't look like there's much change to it.
for
I haven't done the check.
11 and 12 for me?
Yeah, that's pretty much state regulated, 11 and 12.
You know, 12 is, all the things that we,
Oh, no, 12, I'm sorry,
Anything
12.
controversial on that?
11,
I don't see the changes made on number 12 that we talked about here on this printout.
hang on a second. For 11, okay, just going back to 11, the only changes that I have written down here, I think there's something we had a question about coal tonnage, that I addressed that on 11 in that type version.
Cold storage other than for residential heating,
Right,
yeah.
okay, I did include that.
Yeah, what's in there?
Okay, all right, just wanted to make sure. And there was a groundwater impact analysis, and we made a note to look at some other towns.
Yeah.
And then on the next page, because the question was, is that language that we have written in there, is that still standard? The sampling well thing? Because it's based on some survey that's like 30 years old.
Well,
And maybe it still is, I don't
we
know.
can discuss it on the 20th.
But we should research it before we get there.
The one that you put in almost rate and accepted, nothing adopted by the state of Maine.
Is that what we wrote?
Is that the paragraph?
Yeah.
So
Oh, okay, yeah, all right, we did adjust that
You
then.
covered it,
All right, we did
something
cover it.
new with it.
All right, we've got it covered then. I don't think it's very common anyway.
No, I kind of agree with Bruce on 12. I thought we'd thrown all this out. We were going to review it.
Well, no, we threw out factor 1A and 1B, because it basically means everybody is tier 3, you just, for any,
Right, that wasn't the intention.
which we ran into when we had, we found out with Frank, wasn't it, was the one that made that apparent?
Yeah.
And there
Oh,
was
yeah,
another
with his
case
little-
as well.
So this was the last article that you put in here, Eric, is being completed, but it isn't really, so you want us to just pull it out and you could do that table again? Or
Well, we should talk about it and then I'll do it.
No, okay, well.
Yeah.
So that'll be on the
We
20th?
agreed to take out 1A and 1B. All right, Article 12 on the 20th.
11 and 12 on the 20th.
11 and 12 on the 20th.
Yeah,
11, 12,
maybe 13.
is there any reason why we can't?
Yeah, because that would leave the next week all to.
I don't remember us making too many changes to 13, but I don't see any here.
Right on 13.1 we did.
That's right, this is what I got printed out
I
here,
get a
it's not
circle
changed.
these.
Okay, this is what I wrote. I wrote the categories work but need formatting. You go, though the categories are laborious to read, okay, they're hard to read. The general layout allows the easy change of regulations in the future. I think that's what you said.
Yeah.
That's definitely a Bruceism.
Okay, so what we had, throw 13 in there that night if we can get to it.
13, I got all kinds of changes here, but there aren't any on what you did.
Yeah, you got a lot of changes in mine too.
Like you created a category 5 on 13.1.
Yeah, it's because this category 7 thing
Yeah, we
was,
scratched that.
right.
Okay. Yeah, this is just basically the original.
Well, if you type it up like you got it in your book, there shouldn't be a whole lot of discussion, we've already discussed it, I guess the bottom line.
Okay, we haven't done 13 yet then.
Oh, you haven't done it, we did it, we did it, we talked about it.
We talked about it, but I didn't do it.
I know, so we want to pull it out.
Yeah, you can. It's the same exact thing as it is now? Okay.
It is?
What's printed out is the same as what it is.
Yeah, that's right, it's the same. as-
Okay, well then chuck that one. So, well, I'll tell you what, before I retype it, I would like for us to decide whether we're gonna change it, because it just takes less time.
You want to do that
Yeah.
Right now?
No, on the 26th.
On the 26th or the 20th?
20th.
Oh, 20th, I'm sorry.
11, 12, 13.
My guess is by that time we'll be getting behind to be scheduling a Tuesday or a Thursday meeting at some point.
Probably.
I make any bets?
No,
In order to get on schedule?
no, I'm not gonna make a bet on that.
Ah, come on.
I mean, since we've discussed a lot of this stuff, that
That'd be one of those, when the odds are like 2 to 3 or whatever.
we could keep meeting.
I was thinking 10 to 1, my favor.
Well, no, I was gonna say 2 to 3 is definitely gonna happen.
Now, I know we already talked about 16 at least, I thought we did, or did we? Or am I wrong?
I don't really remember talking about 16.
Okay,
No.
I don't have remarks in it, so.
okay. Well, in that case, we pretty well need to do 15, 16, and 17 if there's any changes
Okay, so let's,
on the 26th.
well, yeah, we'll try to do that, Article 15 through 17. But that, you know, we might get bogged down because we haven't even looked at them.
Do you think they're controversial? I don't think they're-
Well, if we start making changes, I don't know.
Anyway.
I could see on these standards, you know, some people having some opinions about them.
So if we do that on the 26th, those 3 articles, we basically left ourselves only 2 meetings for wind industrial.
Well, no, because then we can, on the, oh yeah, you're right. Well, don't forget, then we're gonna have the hearing on the 2nd of April,
Right.
okay? And then we can do industrial wind, because I'm sure that that'll be where most of the changes will be on the 9th. And then we have another hearing on the 17th. And we're gonna have presentations. And we're gonna have,
So what are we doing at the hearing on the 2nd of April?
that's when we make our first presentation of everything, which is good that we do 15 through 17 at least once. So by the 26th,
Unchanged.
by the 26th, that means that on the 26th, okay, we would have reviewed everything at least once, the entire book. So then on the 2nd will be our presentation, the first public hearing for people to come give input and talk about what they liked and what they don't like. And then we have 2 weeks to work to make any adjustments based on the input of the hearing. And then we have a second hearing.
And you've got 1 week before the second hearing.
No, there's 2. It's 2 weeks. It's the 2nd to 17th.
Right, but you only have 1 meeting in between.
Well, I know, but I mean, that means I'll be typing my tail off in the middle.
Okay.
You're also gonna have something prepared before the first hearing for people to read.
Right, well, I don't see us making a bunch of changes to the last couple articles. And a lot of stuff will be conceptual on the 5th, on the 2nd.
You know what we could do on the industrial wind is like, the second meeting for that is on February 20th. And what we could do for the sunshine laws is, or whatever they're called, is to put a tentative second meeting that day. We can always not have it if we don't need it.
Right,
Just for wind, industrial wind, maybe 2 days later. It's the 20th, February 20th is on
February 20th is
it's on a Thursday.
so we could, in theory, do another one on the 24th if you wanted to. Well, no, because you gotta have 7 days.
Well, no, not if we post all these meeting dates right now.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
That's why I'm saying, we put it in, and if we have to cancel it, we can. That would allow us to wrap up anything that we did not have time for. I mean, I'm not.
When
again,
is school vacation week?
I don't know, actually, I'm leaving to go somewhere on the 22nd. I'm gone for a week, I'm on vacation.
Is that school vacation week?
No, not February, excuse me, I'm gonna be gone in March.
It's normally the 17th of February.
That's school vacation week?
No,
Okay, so then people will be back on the
You say February 2nd?
24th.
Super Bowl.
Say that again?
I'm sorry. Did he say February 2nd?
No, February 17th.
Oh, okay. Super Bowl.
Oh no, that's okay, we're having the meeting right then.
Okay,
I'll be here.
so what do you guys think about having a meeting the very next night on the Friday, the 21st?
No, I'm not doing a Friday night meeting.
You don't wanna do a weekend meeting?
I'll do one on the 24th, that Monday night.
Okay. Bruce?
February 24th?
Yeah.
So let's put that in as another meeting day. And what I'll do is in these minutes here is I'll add it on to the 20th, the potential meeting on the 24th.
Yep, and I'll go ahead and,
Add second meeting, make sure Debbie gets it and she can post this whole calendar. Add second meeting for the 24th, Monday the 24th. Of February. Put in workshop underneath it, that'll be next week.
it's starting to come together a little bit here.
Well, other than it's a very intense schedule, I don't think we've said anything too unreasonable.
So on
It isn't like we haven't already been over this about 6 times one way or another.
the 9th, just because we have the public meeting on the 2nd and the 17th, it's gonna take us some time to organize on the 9th. So I guess what I'd like to do on the 9th is, I don't want anybody to make any presentations on the 9th, because we're gonna have to think about what presentations were made on the 2nd by people and speeches that were made, etc. Because that's gonna be a fairly long meeting on the 2nd. And I want to have time for us to write what we want to do, and prepare for the 17th on the 9th. And I don't really think there's going to be any value added hearing more from people on the 2nd as opposed to responding to people on the 2nd, you know what I mean?
April 2nd public hearing and then take,
No presentations
no
on the 9th.
presentation on April 9th.
We're not trying to cut people off, but like I said, they had a time, there will be presentations on the 2nd of August. And people are gonna have comments, I just wanna have response
Or it shouldn't be any on the 23rd either.
development. Yeah, let me think about, yeah, well then, if we don't take them on the 23rd, then what are we gonna do we're gonna still say no on the 30th? I mean, no, we don't have to do it on the 23rd because that's my birthday, so I don't feel it. Good idea. No, I don't know, let's think about that. I mean, after that second public hearing, we do have to have opportunity for people to respond.
Yes, but on the 23rd, we're gonna be hacking everything around what happened on the 17th.
Yeah, perhaps. The only reason I don't want to do it on the 9th is because we have a commitment on the 17th that we have to make.
Yep.
But after the 17th, we don't have a commitment the following week, you know what I mean? That's really the reason, is because of the commitment. But I mean, I'm open to suggestions on it.
Yeah, I think we should have comments on the 23rd.
I mean, I would be inclined to say we should.
Depends on what happens at the meeting on it.
Well, I mean, people are probably going to want to comment somewhat or talk about stuff that they get their last word in or whatever, because at that point, we're going to be coming down to probably making some decisions, because, what could end up happening is, there could be vote for the ordinance and then amendment package by group number 1, amendment package by group number 2, and that's all gonna have to be meshed in so that different packages can get voted on.
So, why don't, from the 23rd, why don't we just leave that open and then regroup the rest of the way? Rather than this, that'd be too far out
Right.
this time. Let's see how things are going. The 2 public hearings would have taken place already.
Right.
We would have had comments. So, I would suggest that I'm available anytime during March, except for that 22nd, the last week.
Yeah.
But if you find out how long, 2 days, 3 days you're away?
I'm away for like that week. That Wednesday, I'm definitely not here. I mean, I'm gone for like 7 days.
Which Wednesday?
That's the one, I gotta go back. I stupidly didn't write it down on the
So we
thing.
may
at work.
have to reverse 2 of these weeks, or,
Right, just flip a week. I'll actually email you probably tonight as soon as I go home and check my BlackBerry, which I didn't bring, because I'll be able to go through the BlackBerry messages and figure it out.
Why don't you just send an email to town office so that, well, we can do it next week,
Yeah,
because it's that far ahead that we can still change the date.
yeah, and we can move around a little bit.
I mean, this isn't set in stone, this is basically to give everybody good warning. And
Right, give everybody opportunity to participate. So, anything else? Anybody have any comments?
One of these
Wait,
weeks,
hang on.
at some point, we're gonna have to leave it open to do all the cross-referencing and fixing the numbers, you said.
Right, that's gonna be after the second hearing.
Yeah.
that really isn't something that I can see anybody wanting to comment on, because all we're doing is making sure that the references are correct.
Well, no, I realize that, but it's the fact of going through and checking with each other
Oh,
and
yeah.
signing and sitting there and doing and
Right,
all that stuff.
there's gonna be a pile to do.
Right, and Dave is gonna be stuck doing it, and if it's wrong, it'll be Dave's fault.
We'll see about that.
Paul, go ahead.
On the groundwater thing, I'm not sure if that came out of the state's significant aquifer protection thing. That the wording might have come out of there. If you want to try to trace down whether there's anything more.
Yeah, I'm positive that that was written in every ordinance in the state at one time. I'm just not confident
Yeah, right.
that it's the current, but it might be, I don't know.
That might be where we got it. I don't remember. And on the articles 16 and 17, I think the nonconformity and the Board of Appeals, maybe not all the Board of Appeals, but I think those came out of the mandatory shoreland guidelines.
So,
I'm pretty sure the nonconformance did, so they might, if the shoreland has changed, the nonconformance might have changed, but if not,
Shoreland is changing. It's a
that,
controversial decision made.
you know, so,
Interest spread.
you know, that's,
what's that?
Well, they're gonna start measuring the heights of structures within shoreline zoning from the high side as opposed to the upside as opposed to the low
yeah,
side.
so that's where I'd go, you know, on the shoreland and the nonconformity, start there to see if they've changed any.
So how does that affect things?
Well, it actually makes it, you know what, our ordinance then would be stricter, which is okay, if we left it in place. Because we now measure the height of the structure from the, am I correct? From the low side. Yeah. They're loosening up shoreline.
So you said they would make taller buildings.
Yeah.
Well, still, the issue would still be, from my perspective, I mean, our most limiting factor is the fire department.
I got a newsletter yesterday, or this week, from a fellow that, it was like 2 or 3 pages, kind of well done. Paul's probably heard of the guy, but he's represents Maine Lake. I don't know if he's a realtor or he writes this newsletter, and he pretty much wrote this newsletter to bash the new mining regulations up north that Irving's going to have. But there were other articles that inside were interesting, including the shoreline zoning changes. You know.
Copy that. So you think that the non-conformity provision, Article 16, is rooted in the shoreline, is what you believe?
I think that's what it is, yeah.
So
See, we
you-
took some of the shoreland stuff and moved it to other places, and I think that's one of them.
Okay.
You know, I can double check that.
I'll be surprised if we find much to be controversial in those sections anyway, they're pretty much boilerplate.
who would think that Shoreland has dropped down on the priority, you know?
Now, is David Hessler expecting communication from you, Bruce?
Yes.
Is he aware? Okay.
So, hang on a second, let me just look at this non-conforming thing. I was thinking that Shoreline had its own non-conformity. But maybe I'm wrong.
Oh, that would have been too easy, Eric, if we left it in there.
I know.
Is this what they drafted for?
This was from last year.
Oh,
That's what I'm wanting to ask.
You don't get that memorized, Bert? I'm on 9.
No, I guess it's not in there, so maybe we did look at it.
See
do you
you
know
on
about
the,
2021?
I look past the place
Do you know anything more about that?
and making all the confusing.
And I was not clear on just how this is gonna work. Do you, are you gonna, you've talked about like on a certain meeting is gonna be for that particular articles. Are you guys gonna publish or present anything that you're doing before then for people to react to, or do you gonna put your version out that night?
Yes, what we're gonna do that night is work on, you know, either what we already made for possible changes. That's gonna be one thing that we might put in there, you know, or, you know, we might do a presentation depending on if it's necessary or not. But, I mean, I'm hoping that's the focus point of that night, but if somebody wants to come in and talk about something else, I mean, I suppose that would be okay, but now let's just say 3 people want to make a presentation, and 2 people want to make a presentation about the articles that we're going to talk about that night, and 1 person wants to make a presentation about something that has nothing to do with what else we're doing that night. Then we're probably going to let the 2 people who are going to talk about the articles for that night make a presentation, and the other person's going to have to get on a different night. On the other hand, if there's nobody who's signed up, and even though we're talking about Articles 13 and 14 or whatever, somebody makes a presentation about Article 7, that's fine, because you're not blocking anybody out, see what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, there's some
No, I was
flexibility built into it, but that's kind of the concept.
And they have to come into the office and give an outline of what they want to talk about before.
No, I was just
It's
kind
all, you guys got it on your recording from last week anyway, we discussed it for, that was our whole meeting last week.
But anyway, go ahead, Paula.
No, I was just wondering, you know, if, like, if you were gonna put forward, I mean, let's go right to the nitty one. If you were gonna put forward some amendments for the wind turbines, if the board was, I mean, it's ridiculous.
I agree with you, and that's why I was suggesting earlier when I said the people on the board are capable of making a presentation. I'd like to have some presentations, like on I was hinting and I'm hoping that somebody would say, on this week I want to make a presentation about X,
Yeah.
okay, and then they would submit an outline like the week before they were going to do it, and we would know they're going to do it. I mean, like, you know, Paula, from working through this stuff before, it's a little bit of a tooth-pulling exercise to some degree, and people have busy lives and things like that. But what I want to do is I'd like to make it a little bit more like what you're talking about, you know, more, you know, educational, you know, compare and contrast, structured discussion of stuff. Because one of the things, you know, this is all of our fault, so I'm not trying to be critical of like when you were putting this together before, because when I look back on the whole thing, I mean, we all, like I mentioned several times the past several weeks or months, that all of us played a role in how we ended up with some of the things that aren't as good as they could have been in this wind project. We would get together and we would go all over Robin Hood's barn and not make presentations and then respond to presentations and keep on the track, you know, and part of it was our fault, you know, collectively.
This was too
for not
deja
doing it.
vu tonight, wasn't it?
Well, I know, and I'm trying to learn from the past and not do some of that stuff, because it's just not,
Yeah,
you don't get done what you need to get done.
yeah, too.
Personally, I feel if you want to make a presentation ahead of time or the week previous to the one where we're going over the article,
That'd be good.
I mean, I just didn't feel like that people should waste their time coming up with a wonderful presentation of something that you guys have already decided you're for or against, or, you know.
Well, I wouldn't take that approach to any of the problems, because let's just say that you know, I mean, even if we were against it, that's one of the things that I think, you know, is unfortunate with what's happened in the past several years around here. There's been a lot of assumptions and presumptions which are entirely not true, because even if you say stuff that, you know, you might disagree with, you know, there's
Yeah, no, I
five
didn't
sub-elements, and at the end result, you might disagree with all five things together, but there's 2 or 3 things out of the 5 things that work perfectly fine, and there are 2 or 3 things that are good to use. Just because,
That's what I was kind
right,
of looking for a sieve of what
don't-
you guys think doesn't work and what does. That's what I guess I was kind of,
right. Well, one of the things that I'm looking for is I am hoping that when people put together presentations, that there can be, you know, people will say, you know, studies by the XYZ organization or engineers or whatever have demonstrated the following things. Boom, 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 boom. Not, you know, and I know everybody has different personalities, but, you know, I was out taking a walk and I started to feel squishy or whatever, because it's just, it's very difficult to try to articulate that into, you know, writing in paper that may, like we just did, go to court. It just makes it so, and then you have a board has to make a decision based on stuff that's not very clear, and it's just too difficult. And
yeah, I guess I wasn't thinking in those terms. That doesn't sound very appetizing for the next few months, does it?
I expect that if somebody says also that engineers say this, this, and that they will supply us with the actual written report. Not just, in other words, an old debating technique in high school was, you just throw out something as a fact, and they've got no time, unless they are familiar with it, they have no idea if that engineer exists,
And
if that was a real report.
I would
You
also
can't-
like to hear,
You're just gonna have something.
I would also like to hear anything that's presented as it pertains to our ordinance and the requirements within our ordinance, not what, something that happened 5 years down the road and people are complaining about it because they got a house underneath a windmill.
Well, yeah.
That doesn't have anything to do with our ordinance.
Yeah, I guess I wasn't envisioning rehashing all that stuff, but
No.
I guess we're gonna, right?
well, I'm not hoping to
No,
rehash
we
that
don't
stuff,
have to.
but if people want to make a change, what I'm hoping that people say is, you know, something like, you know, studies by, you know, I don't know, the American Medical Association, you know, in the Journal of American Medicine, you know, dated February 2010, you know, studied a population of 150 people exposed to whatever it was they were exposed to, and determined that the outcome was this, and the statistical significance of the study was that. Then I can go, geez, I can put that in and go, you know, then I can actually write under it, based on such and such a study or whatever. I mean, that's just, hang on, that's just, to me, it just makes it easier to sell to people.
Yeah, the printout we had of what you guys worked on last year, you didn't mention tonight some things that you had down there that you said Rick was advising on those early articles. I'm just throwing that out there to see.
Say that again?
Like on Articles 1, 2, that Rick had asked for some changes, and you didn't mention that tonight. I don't know. I'm just reading the thing here, so.
Oh, well, you know what, I'd have to go back and reread that to see
Sorry.
what Rick changed, and to be honest with you, at the beginning part of the year when we were working on some of that stuff, Rick was ill quite often, his wife was ill, and Rick didn't maybe make as many inputs as maybe he wanted to, so that's partially why we need to go back through some of this stuff.
Yeah, well, I just
The
throw
point
that
that
out.
you guys make is very, very good in being constructive in this sense. You could read a medical thing that said so-and-so got sick and this happened and this happened, but they were within 1,200 feet of a turbine. So it has to be applicable to the ordinance with whatever presentation is being, you could say all kinds of things that were going on with electromagnetic stuff, because somebody lived right under a wire, but nobody lives under a wire in this situation. So if we can keep it honed down to just that, it'll be very constructive.
Well, right, I mean, you know, obviously, if you stick your hand into a flame, you know, if you put your hand on a 400-degree wood stove and touch it, you're probably gonna get burned, you know? But nobody is advising people to put their hand on a 400-degree wood stove. However, if you're standing, you know, 18 inches away from a 400-degree wood stove, you're probably just gonna feel warm, you know, which is fine. You know, yeah, I mean, that's what we shouldn't be focused in on, are, you know, we recommend you don't put your hand in a fire, no kidding.
Doing a right angle here. One of the other things that I was wondering about, I haven't looked in our ordinance and investigated it very thoroughly, but one of the things that, you know, how when we looked before it was adult entertainment, and now there's a lot about drug clinics, methadone clinics, pot facilities and whatnot. Do we want anything special? Would you be open if we...
Oh, definitely. And I was thinking about that before I came over here tonight. I was thinking that we'd actually even talked about that before. And because they had just started to put methadone clinics in when we were writing this ordinance the first time, and now they have them. And you know, and I thought about the adult, you know, I was thinking about it in the context of the adult entertainment ordinance. I mean, if we can come up with something that makes sense for our town to do, we should do it to provide some protection. But it's one of those things where, do you spend a lot of time on it? Because I do think that it's unlikely that people would want to put something like that out here, only because it's not near a place where you can get taxi service and things like that. These people aren't supposed to be driving, this sort of thing, you know. And obviously the taxi companies and stuff are in Bangor and Brewer. So I was thinking about, you know, why it would be maybe not that valuable of an exercise. But then on the other side of it, you know, maybe, you know, if Bangor and Brewer were getting tired of that or whatever, and they started to make it restrictive, and probably plus the cost of real estate in those towns was expensive, if somebody did do it out here, and we did absolutely nothing to kind of prepare for it, and it happened out here, people would probably be a little upset. So, I mean, probably we should think about it.
There was one instance of this that does reach out into the rural areas, which I don't know if any of you have come across, which came as an unpleasant surprise to us, that one of Brad's neighbors had pit bulls and were very standoffish, don't come on my property, all kinds of stuff. Discovered he's a registered marijuana grower, and their town has nothing that says that he can't do that on his property, but it makes him a target for criminal activity around there trying to get at the pot plants and stuff like that.
Biggest thing is you gotta watch out for. If he's got that permit from the state, we can't tell him that he can't grow.
Well, you can if you have some other, it's, at least this is what we've been told, that you can if you have something like, you know, in our ordinance about, that would require him to have a certain,
If somebody would want to research that, I would be open to it.
well,
The only thing, you know, about that out here is, I mean, this is one of those things where I have to take like my personal feelings and set them aside about that particular topic. You know, it is, you know, we sell ourselves as an agricultural community, and now it's a legally approved process in Maine to have this agricultural product. Okay.
but, yeah.
Okay. I mean, I'm not. You know, I'm not putting my personal
But it's not
into
in an agricultural setting. They just do it in this no windows, small building with air conditioning.
Okay, well, how is that different than the hothouse greenhouse over in Somerset County?
That's, you know, I don't think
How
anybody's
is that
gonna
different than
guard it
Beckford's
with,
greenhouse?
you know, I don't think anybody's gonna guard it with pit bulls.
Well, that's-
but, you know,
Well, I know,
that's-
and I hear what you're
Yeah.
saying, but I'm trying to explain to you, you know, the
I know, that's
alternative
what I'm-
perspectives on that stuff. Now, what you could do, you know, I don't know if we have anything within the animal control parameters in town.
No,
The
you can't
animal-
outlaw pit bulls.
Well, no, I know, but there are some towns that have some rules about.
Restrictions on allowing them to run loose or be a potential
Yeah.
menace to.
But that's for the
Bystanders.
animal control officer to take care of.
Yeah, unfortunately, what we've learned is
Not
that
sure it's a land use matter.
Right.
Exactly.
the, what is it, Department of Human Services that licenses these places, they have like 2 workers for the whole state of Maine, and so they never get checked up on to make sure that.
If there
they're
is
legally-
substantial public interest in regulating land in Clifton, regarding growing marijuana, then we probably should address it. But, if we have just like 2 families come in and they're concerned about it, compared to everything else we have to work with, I'm not gonna say it's irrelevant, but it's gonna be difficult to try to fit in.
You
So
know,
Maine has public nuisance laws as well, if it constitutes public
Yeah.
nuisance. There are remedies there as well, I think.
Like what Jerry said earlier, if the state has approved it, what I hate doing is legislating something you don't want by going around and saying stuff like, let's create other obstacles in the ordinance so it makes it impossible to do something. I think we've done that already in this ordinance in some respects.
And not only that, the other perspective is, some people are gonna be adamantly against this, but you're gonna have a bunch of other people, probably not only are for it, they're probably got their own grow station back in their house. I mean, it's, where do you start drawing the line between starting to regulate people's behavior and what is considered legal activities? Is the next thing we do is tell people if you have children, you can't smoke in your own house? Do we want to start regulating people's behavior as long as it doesn't bother the neighbors?
I would